Just get by. Just get by. Move from now to 5 seconds from now. And that is so much an encapsulation of what it's like to be a comedian. Just get to 5 seconds from now. How can I get from here to there and not feel pain? Because that's essentially what we're doing as comedians. We're tap dancing on stage to feel alive. And for some people, that's easy. For some people, that's effortless. For characters like Billy Ray Schaeffer, that's where he's in his element. But the job that he is faced with every day is living a life that is falling apart.
Jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym. Not jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym. With Rudy Tyburczy.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Jokes in the Gym with Rudy Tyburczy. It's your boy, Rudy Tyburczy. That's me, coming at you for the 78th straight week. Can you believe that? I don't know. Can you? People have done it. I've done it. Now I have done it. 78 straight weeks. That's a long time. That's more weeks than many things I've done before, and I feel proud and thankful that I have the consistency to stick with it. What are you sticking with? What do you keep as a part of your life? What has value to you? One of the things that I love to do is obviously comedy. I love comedy. I've done it for 15 years now, something like that. I'm very thankful that I have stuck with it in many regards. But in other regards, I'm like, honestly, it has brought strife to my life. It has brought challenges. It has brought hardships, those ships that were hard. But it's also brought love and connection and joy and travel and experiences and so many other things, laughter beyond belief. And I'm just beyond thrilled that I have been able to do it and that it's gotten to take me to so many places and be a part of so many experiences. I'm super duper freaking stoked for that. And one of the things that it has done is allowed me to meet a lot of really talented and great comedians and individuals. And one of those individuals is Sam Tallent, none other than Sam freaking Tallent. You may know him from a bunch of different appearances on Kill Tony. He's got some worldwide show on YouTube that's great. I need to watch it. But we're friends, and he's an author, a published author. He has written a book called Running the Light. He wrote it several years back, and I just finally got around to reading it. So this week is going to be a book review of Running the Light, but also a review of a huge week for me. Oh, doof, woof, it's been a big one. So I'm putting the personal and book review because Sam's a friend. And to give you a little background on how I know Sam, where we met at High Plains Comedy Festival in 2017 or 18, something like that. I was just coming back from living in Korea, and I kind of wormed my way into the fest. I both worked as a volunteer, and then I also got to be on a show, and that show was Late Breakfast. Oh my gosh, that show has inspired me to this day. I love it. It's a show that I think it's still running. Danny Maupin and Tyler Jackson were running it, and it's a show that they have comedians get on stage and perform different freaking challenges while they're doing stand-up. So like Caleb Cyan, he had to arm wrestle people, audience members, as he was doing his set. And I had to do this amazing one where I performed to a crowd that was slowly becoming zombified. So I got to choose somebody to be my first zombie. It was my friend Laura Sanders, friend of the show, episode 5. I believe it was 5. And so that was super cool. And then she slowly got other people to be zombies. And then by the end of the show, I was also a zombie, and I had to finish my set as a zombie. And it was amazing. And Sam Tallent was on that same show. Late Late Breakfast. I believe it was at High Dive in Denver. And Sam Tallent, he had to perform his comedy with Seal's Kiss from a Rose being played on the screen behind him in the karaoke version. And every time it got to the chorus, the whole crowd would have to start singing, I've been kissed by a rose on the grave. And then Sam would have to start singing it, interrupt his set, and just keep going. And it was so much freaking fun. And just an amazing show, such a fun conceit, such a great premise, and it's always going to change, always going to be different. And I've been inspired by that show for my show at the Oregon Country Fair that I've done these last couple years as well, with fair themed challenges given to different performers as they perform their sets. And Sam's, again, was hilarious. And Sam remembered me from that show. The few times that I've seen him after that, he was like, hey, you did the zombie set at Late Late Breakfast. And I was like, yes, I'm stoked that you remember that. And so every time that I've seen Sam since then, he's just been a delight. He's been a treasure. He has been like, oh, hey, Rudy, come hang out. Come to the show. The last time he headlined Olsen Run a year ago, after he'd kind of blown up from the book and from his other popularity, he was like, oh, Rudy, you're here. Stick around after the show. Come hang out and that kind of stuff. And so I stopped by last week as well when he was performing at Olsen Run Comedy Club. He and Nathan Lund, who I met again last time, they're co-hosts of the show Chubby Behemoth, the podcast. You might be familiar with that. And hilarious guys, great comedians, just good and good dudes, just a good hangs and having fun in the backstage. It doesn't get much better than being able to hang out backstage with comedians that you appreciate and have a respect and enjoyment for. Can you have an enjoyment for someone? Is that a possibility? So, in that backstage last week, I wasn't on the show, but they were like, yeah, come on, hang out, bro. And Sam came right up to me. I was hanging out with the owner, Joe, and Angie, and Sam came right up to me and he said, hey, he shook my hand, put his hand out, shook my hand. He goes, how's it going? And I was like, because it's been a rough couple of weeks. And he goes, what happened? Like knowing immediately that something was up. And I go, I had a seizure last week, because that's what had happened. And he's like, oh, all right. And like showed concern and care. But there was a line of 30 people that he had stepped away from to shake my hand and say hello. But he was still like, hang out, come on, make sure to hang out and all that jazz. So being able to do that and have those kind of relationships with people just means so much to me. And it's such a cool opportunity. I remember talking with Nathan at length last time we met as well. We talked for 30 or more minutes, and our dads are truck drivers and yada, 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 plenty of similarities. And it was great to be able to catch up and reconnect with both Nathan and Sam. And in the backstage, I brought my copy of the book, Running the Light. And I'll be honest, I hadn't read it yet. I've had it for several years. And I don't know about you, but sometimes when I get a book or a show or a movie rec that's a little too close to home, it takes a little while for me to actually read it. And so I think that's kind of what the case was with Running the Light, because I'm a comedian and I'm in it and I know the experiences. And so sometimes it just takes me a minute to get through it. Sometimes it takes me a while to watch the specials of my favorite comedians. Not all the time, but a lot of the time it's like, I really want to like be in the right mindset for it, because I'm not always in the right mindset, So, anyways, I brought it to have it signed a second time, because it was already signed. It was one of the first 1,000 copies that Sam made and mailed out himself. This was the original Sam Tallent signature and his stamp that he made as well. That was the original. But then I wanted to have him sign my copy as well for me, because that's a cool thing. The fact that I know an author and am able to have him sign I feel like you have to do that. If you have an author's book and you get a chance to shoot the shit with them and have them sign your book, you do that. And so I brought it out, and between shows, we were hanging out in the green room, and I asked, I asked if he could sign my book, and so I handed it to him, and he took it, and he was thumbing through it and looking over it, and this was, again, like I said, one of the first 1,000 copies. For one of the first 1,000 copies in there, it says 1,000 right there, and he's like, he hand mailed them all out. He looked at this note that he typed out and hand tore, that I used as my bookmark for the book, and he was looking through it and just savoring it, taking it up, and he said to me, "Man, Rudy, this is really throwing me back. This is taking me back. It's like making me oddly sentimental." And he signed it, and he was beaming, and he said, "You just made my night, man." And it's amazing. That's such a beautiful thing, because Sam does nothing but he goes around the country and makes other people's night. That's what he does. You see a Sam Tallent show, your day is changed. Your evening is changed at the very minimum. Your week or month or life might be changed. That's how amazing and just one of a kind Sam is as a performer. He is a beast. I have seen him perform in little breweries and on the Lucky's stage, where he is absolutely crushed, and I have seen him die heavenly defeats as well on that same stage, doing some of the same risks, taking risks top to bottom in a set, but also just being so present with the room. And he's one of those performers that really allows you presence. He allows you to forget everything else but what is happening at that moment in time that you are a part of with him. He makes you feel special by being such a special performer. And I think that's such a beautiful gift. So when we're able to experience that as an actual comedy fan, as a comedy goer, it doesn't get much better than that. It doesn't get much better than that. And some of it is road dog work stuff about the town and the people and crowd work and that kind of stuff. But most of it is just presence and brilliance and vibrance and gravity. The gravity that is pulled towards Sam is undeniable. And yet he's such a sweet man in my experience that it's such a gorgeous juxtaposition. And so much of the time, like with guys like Sam and Kyle Kinane, who's another friend, Kyle asked me to be on his shows at the club the week before. And so I'd been super lucky to be a part of the comedy ecosphere. So many people, and I'll get to this a little bit more, but multiple people in the book I actually know. He created this character, Billy Ray Schaeffer. I'm rambling because I'm excited to talk about my friendship with Sam and with other comedians. That's what I have focused on my entire time in comedy overall, is relationships. I think that's why I was a good producer for so long. And that's why people still ask me to be a part of things, is because I focus on relationships. And it doesn't always work. I don't always play the game like everyone plays it. I don't rub the shoulders. I'm not good at the talk. I'm not good at the this. But I try to be myself. I try to be authentic and sincere and joyful and complimentary and thoughtful. And I try to listen, and I try to not steamroll in conversations, because so much of a good hang is not steamrolling your buddy, is leaving space for other people in the green room. And it's tough when that's not always the case. And I've noticed that so many of the best comedians are not the ones who are steamrolling everybody else in conversation. And I think that is a huge thing to take to heart, that we as comedians should consider, because if you want to be booked on shows, you need to be hangable, you know? You need to be a person who people can hang with. And I'm not saying I'm the world's best hang. I'm quiet, I'm hungry, I'm sleepy, I keep to myself, I fart a lot. Like, all those things don't necessarily make me the best hang. But I also listen. I also look people in their eye. I'm also not always making jokes. I do make stupid jokes plenty. Sam laughed at some, didn't laugh at others. That's fine. Gave me shit for some of them, in fact. But that means more than if he didn't. I've heard story. Will Sylvince told me a story about being friends with Patrice O'Neill and how Patrice O'Neill used to give him shit and just give him a hard time about stuff. And then all these other people he wouldn't even give the time of day. And Will was like, Patrice, what's the deal? How come you're always busting my balls, man? And I'm sure I'm butchering the story, but the gist of it was Patrice was like, I don't give a shit about those people. I don't care about those people. And so if you are lucky enough to have those balls busted by comedians, that says something. If they believe that you can take a punch line, then that means something. You're a part of it. And that's all I want. All I want is to be a part of the comedy ecosphere. And that's it. And I think I've done that, and I'm moving at my pace on my own journey, and it will change. Yours will change. Ours will look different. But having the opportunity to see others on their journeys and be able to ask them questions. That's why I love the podcast so much, is because I get to sit down with people and chat with folks about what they've learned about comedy and about health. You know, a year ago when I asked Sam to be on the podcast about comedy and health, he's like, oh, what's it about? I was like, we talk about comedy and health. And he goes, ugh, that sounds horrible. And to a lot of people, I get it. It does sound horrible, but I have a blast talking about it. These are my sweet spots, and I want to hear what other people have learned and how they stay strong on the road. And after reading this book, which I will get to, golly, I promise I'll get to it. I understand a little bit more about where Sam's mindset has been as it relates to health and comedy. Because this book, Running the Light, is about a fictional old road dog, over the hill road dog. His heyday was in that bubble of the 90s comedy bubble, Billy Ray Schaeffer, fictional as far as I know. And he's in kind of a hell week. He's just doing one of these weeks of road gigs that are just like one place to another before he ends in Denver at a little side club, not the big home club that he started at, but he had a week of shows he was going to finish in Denver. And so it was cool because it was a love letter to comedy in some ways, and a love letter to his home, to Sam's home. Sam came up in Denver, as far as I know, and I'm not gonna assume that I know too much more about Sam because I don't. But maybe someday he'll finally relent and choose to be on the show. Maybe once he finds out that seizure was likely caused, well, we'll get to that, because the book is written. Each chapter is a corresponding day of the run. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday. Those are the chapters. And so I went and saw Sam on Friday night at the club. Amazing. And I was like, you know what? I'm finally going to read the book. He signed it. His name. He signed it again. He said it made his day for me to bring that. So it's time to read it. And I started to read it on Saturday, but that was chapter Monday. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to wait until Tuesday and then read the corresponding chapters on their respective days. So I read Monday on Saturday, and he got off the plane and in Texas. Where was it? He got off the plane somewhere in Amarillo. Yes, and I mean it ends each day. Each day is a debaucherous look at the life of a road dog, at this man, Billy Ray Schaeffer, who has just treated his body like a pig pen, just relented to his animal instincts for decades, and just hooked on the booze and the drugs and the women and the fast living, getting by, that so many comics do, so many road dogs just experience. And it's a brutal look at the life of a comic. It's like if Bukowski wrote a book about a comedian. Like, that's what it is. It's brutal, it's poetic, it's beautiful, it's heartbreaking, it's authentic. It feels like you have an idea of what it's like to be this kind of road dog. And I've lived some wild comedy times. When I started, it was in Korea. I started my comedy time in Korea, and I was traveling all over Asia doing comedy with my friends. We were drinking too much, having too much fun, and just doing stupid things, but we got by. And I eventually wisened up. I wasn't treating my body quite like Billy Ray Schaeffer was in this book. I've never got into any of the hard stuff or never got violent with people. None of that kind of stuff. But that's what this character is. He's this, like, it almost glorifies that road dog, brutal, drunk, cokehead comic is just a ball of fire on stage lifestyle. Almost, but it doesn't quite. But you see it. That's the whole book. And so I started the book on Saturday, and then I saw Life of Chuck with my dad. And there's big father-son themes throughout the book as well. And Life of Chuck is I didn't know what it was going into it, a genre-bending, life-affirming Stephen King story is how it was pitched in Fandango, and hit pretty close to home. I won't say exactly what was so close about it, but it hit pretty freaking close to home. And we'll get a little more about my diagnosis as we continue on talking about this book. And it was a great way to see that movie with my dad. But then I realized that I was going to read the rest of the book on their respective days. So Tuesday, in the book, Billy Ray Schaeffer does another one of these hell gigs at this place, at a tiny bar that doesn't even know there's comedies happening, and he was preceded by some game called Ploppo that you'll have to read about to discover what it is. But I'll tell you that it wasn't comedy. It wasn't comedy. And Tuesday in my life was my appointment with the neurosurgeon, and had that appointment after what was likely a seizure on Friday, June 6th, while working out. And after what they told me in the ER on that day, on the 6th, it was echoed in the neurosurgeon's office. There was a mass on my brain, and the neurosurgeon that day on Tuesday told me that he was diagnosing it as a low-grade glioma. And that doesn't sound entirely positive, but he was a good doctor, and he had good bedside manner. and I appreciated him. And low grade means that it's likely not malignant, so probably benign, so probably not the nasty, freaky deaky kind of brain tumor. But it was and is a brain tumor nonetheless. And so it was, as Billy Ray is shadow boxing alone, high, naked, in his motel room on Tuesday night, I'm like crying over my brain tumor and what would likely require neurosurgery, as the doctor suggested. But for me, also, I am in AFib, which is atrial fibrillation, which is an irregular heartbeat, which was the first thing I was dealing with this year, which was hard enough to deal with on its own. And then on top of that, I got brain cancer. And in order for the benign tumor to be as benign as possible, they suggest I get my brain sliced open and scooped out. And that's a Tuesday. That's quite a Tuesday. And so what do you do with that? You just keep going. You just keep going. I kept reading. On Wednesday, he starts his day with vodka on a bench. I'm just drinking my coffee still. But that's what the book is like. Constantly searching for the next thing, constantly searching for the next hit, constantly trying to get whatever you have to get to just get by. Just get by. Just get by. Move from now to 5 seconds from now. And that is so much an encapsulation of what it's like to be a comedian. Just get to 5 seconds from now. How can I get from here to there and not feel pain? Because that's essentially what we're doing as comedians. We're tap dancing on stage to feel alive. And for some people, that's easy. For some people, that's effortless. For characters like Billy Ray Schaeffer, that's where he's in his element. But the job that he is faced with every day is living a life that is falling apart. And so when I talk about it being almost glorified, it's also shown, or if you think it's glorious to wake up on a Wednesday and get drunk in a park bench and pass out with your shirt off, then yeah, it's glorifying it. But if you can recognize what's actually happening, then it's more of a sad look at what is possible when you are a father or a comedian or a husband or a traveler who is just looking for your next fix. And so what did I do on Wednesday? He had another one of those wild gigs that he just kind of took by the horns. I won't tell you what happened on stage, but he eventually just turned it into his own. And it ends in some kind of debaucherous sexcapade. I won't tell you much more about how his tour ended or what it entailed. But what did I do that day? I saw The Phoenician Scheme with two beautiful Michiganders. And it's funny because Sam is a Michigander at the moment. He lives in Michigan. And I did not have any type of threesome. The closest I got was that I was holding the popcorn. That's what it happened. And it was great. Oh my gosh. When you're at a movie and you're eating popcorn, like, why does anything matter? Does anything matter? I'm trying to reduce the butter. So there's no butter on this popcorn. I put nutritional yeast and it was okay on there. But sometimes you put nutritional yeast on the popcorn and you're like, who are we kidding? I really just wanted butter. But it was great. It was a great experience, a good day. Fun to be with my friends, fun to just sit in a movie theater. Gosh, I love a movie theater. That's why I love going to I'm so excited for 28 years later. But to get to go and just be just enveloped in a story. Go in a dark room, a blacked out room, sit with a bunch of strangers, get lost in a story, maybe get scared, maybe cry next to an old person, maybe laugh next to two people on a date who don't want to laugh. I'm always that person in a movie. Half the time when I'm laughing, no one else is laughing. I go to a lot of movies in Springfield with my dad, and I am cracking up. I remember seeing Death of a Unicorn being the only person laughing at probably 3/4 of the jokes. And I'm like, who are these freaking folks who don't know how to flip and laugh? Who are these people going to movies not laughing? But then I go to the Metro downtown, and people are laughing. It's all about where you're going. So check out the Metro. I love the Metro. Thursday, again, and the book. He's just a feral being, Billy Ray Schaeffer. The character in the book is feral and just guided by passion and violence. And while I am connected to my body through intentionality and purposeful exploration, he follows his nose, or his dick's nose. His nose is dick? I'm not sure. And it gets gnarly. It gets ugly. It gets rough. And as he is in that state that leads him to so much chaos because he's trying to score his next hit, he's trying to get off one way or another. He's forgetting things left and right. I am just trying to remember to take my meds. Like, that's the biggest part of my life, because the neurosurgeon was very positive about the outcome of what would happen if I had a brain surgery and how it would just be another chapter in my life. He said that it was just going to be another chapter in your story, and you'll get through it and it'll be fine. And, chances are likely that that is the case. But he said, you're also an AFib, and we want to get you out of that. And so I have worked on scheduling cardioversion. And so they called me to schedule cardioversion. That was on my list of things to do on my days off. And on Thursday, I was going to do it. I was going to get the courage up, the whatever up, the wherewithal together to call them finally to say, hey, get this cardioversion, because we'd been playing phone tag for a while to make it happen. And so I took a shower, because that's where I feel my most alive. That's where I can breathe the most. That's where my nasal passages don't feel like they've been caved in entirely, is in the shower. And I got a call when I was in the shower, and so I scheduled my cardioversion for July 18th. And that is a procedure where they put you out for a few minutes and they shock your heart into what will hopefully be a normal rhythm. Now, there are potential challenges, but people get cardioversions every day. There's thousands of them done a year. Tons. I know people who've gotten them. And that is just one of the steps that I'll have to take to move forward in this process. Getting out of AFib so I can hopefully get some kind of stability in order to get that brain surgery, to get them scoops, to get them brain scoops out, because that's what is needed, most likely. because it has, well, it's not aggressive necessarily. We don't want it to be a more aggressive form of benign because it has grown, but not at an aggressive rate. So aggressively benign, like a family member who talks a little too close to you at the cookout. You know what I mean? Too much macaroni salad, little too many political ideologies flying in your face with the mayonnaise. Aggressively benign. It's like, I don't want that in me. I don't want that in me. Is it going to end my life? Probably not, but I don't want it in me. Let's get that scooped out. You want to get that scooped out? And so that's what my Thursday was. And it was wild. But again, another positive step in the right direction. And then meanwhile in the book on Friday, he ends up in the hospital somehow. That's how the chapter starts. Billy Ray Schaeffer is in the hospital talking with the doctor, hooked up, and just like sipping on juice. No big deal. Whatever. Having a day. Can I get another juice? Meanwhile, my last trip to the ER, they wouldn't let me eat or drink anything for 8 hours. The most I got was a tiny amount of ice chips that I could chew on while in the freaking ER. I filled up half of one of those urinals about this much of a urinal on my side, pissed it about half of a freaking liter. I had to just lay on my side, pee in this urinal because they're like, oh, you can't go anywhere. Meanwhile, in the book, Billy Ray's just like chilling, having a laugh, and he gets his blood pressure on. In that chapter, he gets his blood pressure taken, and it is 171 over 102, which is basically a hypertension disaster. Like that is a physical escalation. Like you're almost in, like you need to be there. When I went to the neurosurgeon, I got my blood pressure taken on Tuesday. It was 108 over 65. And that is good. That's like athletic and positive. It means I got good veins, blood's flowing. That's where the nurse asks if I'm an athlete. I'm like, no, I just, stretch and do therapy. And yet, it doesn't matter. I've been working out for decades, and yet, here I am. Here we are in these positions. Life doesn't care about your plans. And I don't work out to stave off this kind of stuff. That's never been why I've done it. I've done it because I feel lucky that I can wiggle my fingers and toes. I've always said, as long as I can take the stairs, I will. Because not everybody can. It's about living the life that you have. If you can't change the cards you're dealt. If I get pocket twos, I get pocket twos. Look, there's something I can do with these twos. You know what I mean? There's something I can do with them. And that's what I still believe. I've still been going to work since this prognosis. I took some time off because I felt like absolute hell. And you get told you have a mass in your brain after having a seizure at your place of work and nearly biting off half your tongue. Take some time fucking off. But I'm back and working, and I will continue to do stuff as long as I can, because I'm preaching the gospel of moving your body. It's about health. And I'm talking with all these 60, 70-year-old ladies who are most of my clients. It's not about getting big, jacked, and ripped. It's about having a relationship, a connection with your body that is meaningful. This meat vessel that we're in, this sack of juices and goo, is meaningful. I don't know what's coming of it. I don't know what's next. I don't know how much longer I get in this friggin' meat vest, but I'm going to be here. The doctor said to Billy Ray Schaeffer in the book, he said, "You are on an unreckonable path." And my doctor was like, "This sucks, man." And it's tough. You know, Sam laughed at me when I asked if he wanted to talk about health. He goes, "That sounds awful." And yet here I am still talking about it. I got to face something that could be life altering. It's life threatening. One way or another, chances are good that I'll get through it and be just fine. But it's still cancer in my brain. It's still a tumor. Still someone's going to chop me up after my heart gets in the right place, the right pace, the right space. So why do you do it? Why do I do it? I do it because I love it. I love listening to my body. I love feeling my body. And that's what I tell people. I say, you listen to your body and I listen to you. That's what I tell my clients. You listen to your body, I listen to you. And I love helping people get more connected with themselves. That's huge. What a gift. What a joy. And the Billy Ray Schaeffers of the world, I've known a few of them. I know a few of them, you know? And I'm not here to change anybody's life. I'm not here to change people's minds. I'm just here to share my perspective. I'm here to help you find a greater connection with the closest living relative in your life, which is your meat sack. Listen to that body of yours. Are you on an unreckonable path? Or are you doing okay? Or do you feel weird? Go see the doctor. It's just sad because health feels like a punchline. And I've got jokes about that. It's like health doesn't have to be a punchline. But whatever. It's funny. It's funny that I fucking work my ass off for years, that I do this stuff, and then I get brain cancer. That's an Alanis Morissette song, right? That's something. And so the book continues, and I really liked it. There was some, as the weekend in the book happened, he got some beautiful moments. There was some redemption. There was some finality. There were some characters that we're familiar with. And there was at least 4 or 5 names in there that I know personally. So it was fun for this book to kind of teeter on the verge of reality and fiction, you know, when there's names in there like Kyle Kinane, Nathan Lund, Sean Patton, Baron Vaughn, Tig Notaro, others, Andy Andrist, people that I know, people that I'm lucky to call friends in one way or another, or that I've at least seen perform and learned from. It makes you feel connected. That's one of my favorite things about a book, is when you have a connection to it. And so getting back into reading a bit this year, it makes it easier when you know the person. So if you, that's the other thing I want to have on the podcast, is more authors. I've had a few people who are authors reach out, and I'll reach back out. I know I haven't been doing interviews lately, but that's because some other things have been taking shape in my life. And so this year I've needed to kind of slow down. And that's what I am doing, what I am learning, is how to slow down, how to protect my energy, how to count my spoons and communicate that to other people. And I'm so fortunate that if I'm going to have an episode, if I'm going to feel the way I feel, that I work in a place like the Y that is full of people who are there to help others live more fulfilled, healthy, full lives, you know? And so many people have just been beautifully supportive through this whole thing. If this is the first you're hearing of it, you know, that's I, it took me by surprise too. If you want to reach out, feel free. Send me an email, a text. Find me wherever. jokesandthegym@gmail.com. Rudy Tyburczy @gmail.com. Say hi. You know, like I said, most signs point to this turning out all right. And like Doctor said, hopefully I'll write this chapter and get on to the next one, and it'll make me a better person for it. The doctor diagnosed me with a brain tumor and 24 to 36 months of material. And I'm stoked about it. Actually, I'm not. I would much rather not have to deal with this. But I will be making jokes about it because that's how I deal. I remember someone I dated years ago or had a thing with. She was a poet. You know those people you meet that get you into poetry. Sam also is talking about poetry, and so I bought a book by a poet, by an author that he said he was reading. But she said, "Not everything's a joke, Rudy." And then I got this diagnosis, and I'm like, "Yeah, it is." yeah, it is. It is. What's the saying that true comedy feels like a tragedy to the person living it, and a tragedy looks like comedy to everyone else? And I'm not sure where I'm at in that equation. But I'm going to chug along. How you doing? Chugging along, getting by. How are you doing? Let me know. Let me know how things are. If you don't want to let me know, that's okay. Let someone else know. Let your doctor know. Go see someone. Don't just get excited about getting away with whatever you're doing. How can you make your days better? How can you make yourself feel more alive and not just numb everything like the tip of my tongue? I don't have feeling in the tip of my tongue. It healed pretty decently, but I wonder if I'll ever feel that thing again. We'll see. You know, this was heavy. This was a lot, but I feel like maybe framing it in the perspective of my week as I read this amazing book that I definitely recommend. If you haven't read Running the Light, get yourself a copy, read it. You want a Bukowski-esque experience about a comic living their life to the not fullest, but also living as hard as they could for a week? Check it out. Sam Tallent is amazing. I'm excited to see what he continues to do, how he continues to create his experience, to create his I don't want to say content, but I say it because he does comedy, he does videos, he writes books. I'm sure we are going to see so much from that guy before it's all said and done. I feel lucky to be alive and watch auteurs create. I feel lucky to be alive and watch what Wes Anderson does. He's not my absolute favorite director, but I like him. And I like his stuff, and the movies he makes are thoughtful and fun and unique and so distinctly their own that they are unlike others. A lot of people are certainly influenced, but he's so one of a kind. He's so himself. And I see that in Sam. I see that in Sam. I hope that Sam makes movies. I hope that Sam gets every shot possible because he is a terror. And I mean that in the best way possible, the highest form of flattery. He is a monster and a beast, and he is a one-of-a-kind voice, presence, power that leaves you speechless after you see him perform. So at the very least, the next time Sam comes to a place near you, go check him out. And if you haven't, check out Running the Light by Sam Tallent. And I'm so lucky that I get to be his friend in Eugene. I'm lucky that I get to be your friend in Eugene. And I hope you have a day that rivals all days. Tell someone you love them. Reach out. Give a hug. Pet your cat. Do a push-up or two. Do a squat. Maybe a deadlift. Drink some water. Go to bed. I love you. Thanks for hanging out. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for being who the frick you are. And I'll see you next time. Toodles, my friends.
Jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym. Not jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym. With Rudy Tyburczy.
Check, 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 check. Billy Ray Schaeffer broke his bottle cap on his butthole. Mic check, mic check. All right.